Hello, good morning. It's 9 a.m. and we're starting our Cafecito time. I hope that you are excited and ready. We have an awesome guest today and I'm really excited. We're going to be talking about taking the bar exam and retaking the bar exam. And our guest is Jessica Ocampo. So I'm going to go ahead and read her bio right now and then we'll add her onto our video. So Jessica Ocampo is a law clerk for the Illinois office of the Attorney General. She is currently pending admission to the Illinois bar. Thereafter, she will assume the position of Assistant Attorney General in the Workers' Compensation Bureau. Ms. Ocampo is a first-generation Latina. Her mother is from Argentina, her father is from Mexico. She is the first in her family to graduate high school, college, and law school. She attended the John Marshall Law School in Chicago. During law school, Ms. Ocampo served various leadership roles, including chair of the Law Student Division of the Hispanic National Bar Association and vice president of the JMLX Latinx Law Student Association. She also was part of the Moot Court Honors Program, where her team completed the New York University's National Immigration Law Competition, earning a place in the octafinals. When she is not practicing law, Ms. Ocampo enjoys staying and active during doing CrossFit, yoga, and playing with her husky. Well, I'll add her on here on our call here soon, so I'm really excited. For those who are just joining, we'll be talking about taking the bar exam and retaking the bar exam. So thank you for joining us here. Give me a second while I add her in here. Hi!
Buenos dias. So happy I'm finally able to make it on. It wouldn't be, a real story if something didn't happen. So
Yeah, we've had so many, and a lot of people, they don't really do IG lives, so you're not the
at
first
all,
one.
at all, at all. And I actually had to come into work, so I'm in the state building. So you know how state resources are. So especially right now. So,
Yeah.
but so happy. Oop, of course. So happy to make it on.
That's awesome. I'm so happy for you. I love seeing that work. State Attorney General. It's pretty awesome. I mean, which state are
Thank
you
you.
right now? In Illinois? Is that
I
right?
am. Yes, I am in Illinois. The Attorney General's office does have a couple of offices in the state. I actually work in the Chicago location.
Mhm.
So just right in the middle of everything that's going on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're here. We're here and working, and we have been working from home,
Okay.
thankfully. But some things, you have to come in the office, and we're here with our masks and everything, and
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Stay
Yeah,
safe and that you'll be okay.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a
Yeah, yeah.
right now, but
For sure, for sure. But at least it just, if it is any kind of peace and solace to people of Illinois, we're here, and we're working for them. So
yeah, yeah. I can't believe you're my neighbor. I was in Indiana for most of my time, and then
hmm
over here to Washington State. So if I
hmm
over there, we'll have to meet. I love Chicago, so we'll have to come and visit you. Now I know Chicago.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When the world opens back up, maybe we'll wait a couple of weeks to make sure that it's safe.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I know for sure. And I'm actually originally from California.
Oh,
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I went to Arizona State for undergrad, and then I moved to Chicago for law school.
oh,
So
wow.
I'm definitely a transplant myself over here.
Yeah,
Um,
that's my favorite here, and I've never felt like that really like a whole lot. Um,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
a very different culture over here than Indiana, which it has its plus and minuses too.
hmm
So.
For sure, for sure. I haven't visited Indiana yet, but just, based off of the last cafecito when you were just telling us a little bit about yourself and, just the history of Indiana itself,
Yeah,
uh,
very different.
it's very different, very different. The whole Midwest, like you were saying, it's very different. And while, you think moving to Chicago, it's, very diverse city. It's a highly populated city. And again, with so many different cultures that you don't see on the West Coast, it still is like its little bubble.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you leave the outskirts of the city. You're in cornfields, so
Yeah, it's a
you
lot of
know, no
history out there.
disrespect to anybody who grew up on a cornfield, but it's a very different environment.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I'm glad to be here, both in Chicago and live with you guys. So, um, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So I did prepare some questions for you, but again, to
Absolutely.
our those are viewing us, if you guys have any questions during this time, please feel free to put them on the comment section, and we'll be answering them as they come. So I'm excited to get this started.
Yes, yes, and sin confianza, if you don't speak Spanish, with all confidence, ask questions because at the end of the day, like if you don't ask, your questions aren't going to get answered. No question is stupid, and that's one thing that I really like about these cafecito intimate conversations because it really is an opportunity for us to break down any kinds of
Very,
societal barriers
uh,
and just self-esteem issues, just for us to be able to have that open dialogue. It's very necessary. So thank you again for putting these
yeah,
on.
no problem. Yeah, I was very nervous. I didn't know how everybody will react to Cafecito time. I'm
And
glad that it's just it's been really helpful for so many people, and that's mainly what my goal was, you know.
for
So,
sure, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
So here we'll start off with you took the bar exam the first time, and when was that?
Okay, so I graduated law school of May of 2019,
Mm-hmm.
and then I took the bar right afterwards, July of 2019.
Okay.
I did everything that, what I was supposed to, the whole 2 month, intense studying type of the deal. Um, so I don't know if you just want me to like talk about that experience, or if you want to ask me like just talk about it.
Yeah, tell us first time, and then when did you take it again? Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. Okay, so yeah, so I did the whole 2 month program. We graduated May, it was like May 19th. Started a couple of days right afterwards in the intense studying. And I do want to preface this by saying that what worked for me, may not work for you, and everything else that we hear around. Like the best thing that I could say is listen to what everybody has to say, and I know we hear this time and time and time again. And I know that I myself didn't follow it, no matter how many times I heard it. But it just, after the second time, it proved even more how true what I'm about to say is. Whatever worked for you in law school, continue doing it while you're studying for the bar. Like you can't try to reinvent the wheel, because I tried to, because again, you just want to take this exam once. It's expensive. You have to, be out of work, and you're dedicating so much time to this.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you only want to do it once, so you're going to take everybody's advice and see what sticks. But for some people, that 12-hour a day study schedule works for them. That wasn't me. I couldn't be, I wasn't one that could do that for 12 hours. Or so going back to the exam, so I took it July, and then we didn't get our results until October 1st.
Yeah, it takes a long
uh,
time.
yeah, it does. And as we all know, it's only offered twice a year. It's an astronomical amount of money to take the exam, and the prep materials that go along with it. So Illinois got their results October 1st, and then I took the next exam right after. Once I found out that I didn't pass by 12 points. So Illinois is part of the UBE exam.
Mm-hmm.
The time that I took it in July, it was the first time that the state was adopting the uniform bar exam, because previously they had their own Illinois specific exam.
Mm-hmm.
So then we took it. I got the results October 1st, and then once the registration was open, that's one thing. Like right away, I was like, I need to get back on the horse and register for this exam.
Mm-hmm.
So then I took the next exam. It was the last Tuesday and Wednesday of February. Excuse me, it wasn't March. Last Tuesday and Wednesday of February. And then we got our results April 3rd.
Okay. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's this 2020, correct? So like
Yes.
recently. Okay. Wow.
Yes, yes, yes.
Congratulations that you
Thank
passed.
you.
That's
Thank you so much.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the sec-
Especially, oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. I was gonna say the second time that you took it, how did that feel? Like once you were studying, was that more of like a recap, or you feel like you still had a lot more to go and memorize, or
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, even though I've done well in school, it's always taken me a lot of work to
Mhm.
do it. I've never been one to just completely get it off the bat, excuse me. I've had to put in the work and just, go over it more than once, two times, just for me to be able to get it. And so for the first time, there's so much material. I thankfully, that's one thing that I do recommend. Like you will get different advice from this is primarily for students that are 1Ls or even pre-law. I recommend you taking, when it comes to time to select your courses in law school, you should absolutely take the courses that are going to be tested on the bar,
Mhm.
instead of seeing them for the first time on the bar. Because
Yeah.
there are some professors who will say, no, you should take courses that interest you because you're never going to, have an opportunity to be exposed to them. And sure, while that may be the case, but at the end goal here is to pass the bar exam. And you want to do that in the least amount of tries that it takes.
Mhm.
So, to the extent that you can register for bar prep courses, or courses that are going to be on the bar during law school, absolutely. So it it just I studied for the second time around as if it were the first time I had taken the bar.
Mhm.
Um, even though some things, still were there and it was just like a refresher, it wasn't completely something that I was just going to review for the first time. You study for the second time again as if it was the first time. And I actually
Yeah.
started studying earlier because I was working.
No.
Yeah,
Were
I
you
was
working
working.
full time or part time?
I was working full time. I
Oh,
was working full time. Thankfully, I had a job with the Attorney General's office, lined up after graduation, and I started in August before I found out the results of the bar, and then thankfully they gave me another chance, and they said, yeah, well, yeah, yeah, I was
the thing
very
are
fortunate.
the people who, if you don't, if if you don't pass it, they might not give you that chance and opportunity.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm very thankful to have a great support system and even here at work.
yeah.
So they gave me the second try, and I mean I took another 2 months off to study. I did.
Okay. Good.
And so I had started studying probably in September.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question. Like, when did you decide to start studying early?
Again,
Early?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I started studying in September. And I would, after work, or I like you said in my bio, I like to work out. So after I worked out, I try to get some studying in, and then as time got closer, I even woke up at 6, like 4 o'clock in the morning to try to study a couple of hours before work, and then afterwards. And I mean, that didn't work for me. It was terrible. Nothing was sticking. So I had to do something. I said, you know what, I need to take the time off.
Yeah.
And I know not a lot of people would have that opportunity to take the time off. But in order to dedicate, it takes a lot of time
Yeah.
and effort and attention and concentration. And if you're worried about, you know, if you're spending 8 hours each day going to work, that time is going to be very limited. Not to say that you can't do it, because there are so many students
I have done
that
it.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for those students, reach out to your academic achievement offices at your schools. There has to be somebody that did that same type of study plan,
Hmm.
um, because you may not have the ability to take off work.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I know that for me, I think a lot of students, for me, I went for 4 years. I
mhm, mhm,
worked full
mhm.
time and I studied uh, for my classes. We went to class and then stayed at the library until midnight, and
Mm-hmm.
I started all over again. I recently wrote about like what my schedule looked like as a part-time student because we some not all schools have that part-time program, and if they
Right.
do have it, a lot of students don't know what that looks like. And it wears you out. I think. I mean, my last semester, that was full-time work and full-time studying because I had to finish. I just wanted to be done, so I
Mm-hmm.
went ahead and I think I took like 14 and 15 credit hours that semester.
Yeah, that's rough.
it
That
was
is
it was
rough.
pretty hard, and the good thing is that I had a job that they were so kind that they let me go to class early in the morning, come into work, even stay later than everyone else if I needed
Mm-hmm.
to.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked at the same time doing an immigration clinic. So
Mm-hmm.
at that time, I needed to do a project, and they had a clinic next in the same branch as where I worked. So I was able
Mm-hmm.
to fit in some of those, like overlap some of those
Oh,
projects.
good. Good, good, good.
Of them because not everyone does that. But
Mm-hmm.
taking the bar exam, I think it was scary for me because I didn't know how I was going to afford my living expenses. Like my family had, especially when for me, I have my parents. They put in a lot of work into helping me pay because
Right.
I couldn't get loans. So for them, it just felt like that was their mission, and I'm just very blessed in that way.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way I felt like I could ask them to please help me pay this or that. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, like there was a point like I didn't have money to pay for my rent, and that was scary because you're trying to concentrate. And my dad won this like loteria thing for $500, and that was how I paid my rent that month. Like
Mm.
and I know like a lot of students are in that position,
Yeah.
but you said
Yeah.
I also don't want to say it's not possible because for me that was my own story with TPS ending, being in depression, like having this mental breakdown of basically, oh my gosh, I gotta take this thing, but I'm worn out.
Mm-hmm.
So with
Mm-hmm.
that being said, there are people who have passed it. I know that my story is different. Each person's story is different. So
Mm-hmm.
like meeting those people is also key to feeling empowered that you can do it and it's possible. And
Absolutely.
you can't because
Absolutely.
I remember meeting other students and I said it's all about mindset. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're taking the bar exam, it's having the mindset that you can do it because you graduated. You put all that work and you just know it. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
and so I'm
Absolutely.
really happy to talk to you today because I think a lot of times we're very nervous to talk about not passing and having a failure, and
Right.
I'm
Right.
I'm very nervous to talk about it because I know that people expect for someone who created something like the website for Latina to be a attorney already, but the truth is I'm not, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really intend to practice, but I would like to at some point, and I'll take
Mm-hmm.
it. But
Yeah.
circumstantially, I'm not in that position
Right.
to take it right now. Yeah.
Right, right. And I really want to touch on that mindset that you just mentioned. And I will say, like, that your story, of all the struggles that you had to go through. I actually have a coworker that had a very similar story, like almost exactly to what you just said.
Hmm.
Didn't pass the first time, had to, didn't know how she was going to pay her rent and things like that. But ultimately she did end up passing the second time. And and as we know with the law, unfortunately, it is such an abusive career, from and process from trying to take the LSAT and applying to law schools and going through the whole, uh, you know once you're a first year, look to your right, look to your left, one of you is not going to be here. It's just it's a very toxic environment. and
Hmm.
um and I mean, I'll tell you that with in my successes and my failures as a law student, whenever I felt confident about something, I usually did not do well.
Yeah.
When I felt poorly and like this was the end and I failed this exam, and I did really well.
Yeah.
And it just it carries on to when you take the exam itself. And I'll tell you, when I got those results the first time and it says failed the bar, and then when you apply to take it again, failed the last 3 times. Like, I don't know if it's done on purpose or not. I'd like to say not. Maybe it's just because it's what it's called. You failed an exam, but you keep on seeing it over and over that you failed, you failed, you failed, and so it really has the ability. It really can take a toll on you, and you think of yourself as a failure. But
Yeah.
I will tell you, again, touching back on the mindset, once I saw that it said fail, I said no, I did not pass.
Mhm.
There's a difference. There's a big difference in between seeing, you know, fail and not pass. And that's all it is. I did
Yeah.
not pass.
Yeah.
And for me, just, I that was the whole reason why I wanted to be an attorney to begin with, because I wanted to be a voice for those who did not have a voice,
Mhm.
in some regard, especially for our communities. Um,
Yeah.
And when I found, like, obviously I went through the grieving process. Of course, I cried. What is this? Like, why did this happen to me? Right. But I came after speaking with coworkers, because I got you have to seek the help. After speaking with coworkers and other people, I determined that I did not pass because it was meant for me to be able to give back to other students who inevitably are going to be in the same position. I needed to not pass so that so they could be able to relate somehow to my story, and to see that, hey, you know what? If she did it, I could do it too. Because again, like you said,
Yes.
we don't
Yeah.
talk about the not passing of the exam, because you're perceived as, it's perceived as, she's not smart enough. I mean, it has a stigma, and more people don't pass than we know of. And so by creating this
Mhm.
kind of dialogue, I'm hoping to kind of, again, break down those societal barriers so that we can have these open discussions and come to the common ground that, hey, it's okay. It's okay if you didn't pass. It's an exam. You can take it again. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's just wonderful that you're doing this, that you're talking about that we're talking about it today, because I think a lot of students, they will be very quiet about it. I get messages of a lot of Latinas who are like, "Hey, I didn't pass. Like, can you just, they need some cheering on." I would like to be there echándoles las porras, like I'm
I
like, "You can
know,
do
I
it."
know. Yeah,
And for me, like, I want to take the bar again. I want to pass it. That's what by talking to you and like role models like you, it just really helps break that down for me and say, hey, I'm not alone. I think that's the
absolutely.
beauty about doing Latina. Like we're talking about these struggles and, not just putting our stories out there of like all the things that we did, but a lot of people can see underneath that and relate to it. And I think that's just beautiful. I think we're starting to get
Absolutely.
some questions here for some.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's do it.
I have for Mujeres Llenas. Jessica, I think earlier you mentioned that studying 10 to 12 hours a day was not what worked for you. However, can you talk about the importance of a schedule during studying for the bar?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question, Mujeres Llenas. It is absolutely very important to stick to a schedule, because while you're in law school, you have your typical schedule. While you're working, you're doing this and that's that, and then once law school is over, you're left to study for the bar. And what do I do? Again, I was very thankful and blessed to be able to reach out to my school to help me come up with a type of schedule. So I would definitely, one, reach out to your academic achievement office if you're having trouble seeing, how should I schedule this. But I incorporating into that schedule, I would also say that you need to make sure to, what I did and what I think it's very important for us to do, is do at least one thing each day that makes you happy while you're studying for the bar, whether that is watching your favorite episode of The Office, or whatever, funny TV show. If you meditate, if you do yoga, if you work out, make sure you do, go out for a walk, whatever it is that you can do to keep you sane each day while you go through this, and then stick to that when I did what I did the second time around, and I did do it the first time, but I guess I was a little bit more structured with my schedule the second time around. I basically treated it like a job. And you will hear other people say, treat it like a job, but take Saturday and Sunday off or something. I couldn't. I
Yeah.
did. Studied every day. I may not have been studying 10 to 12 hours a day, but I would at least do 6 to 8,
Yeah.
depending on what it is. And depending on the day, I mean, because you have to also be honest with yourself and listen to how your body is feeling. If you have one day where, you're sitting there and you're reading and nothing is clicking in your head, you're just wasting time. Take a
Yeah.
break, come back to it. It's okay to take a day off. If you have to take a couple of days off, especially in the beginning, okay. While you're getting towards the end, you're going to start to get a little bit fatigued. Maybe, do it for a little bit, maybe a little less hours each day. But you need to
Mhm.
take your breaks. You need to have that structure. And another thing that I would say when it comes to structure your days in the same time frames as the bar. So for us, we had to be at the testing center by 8 o'clock. And so I, would wake up at 7:30, you know, get have my breakfast, my cafecito or un tecito, you know, watch some funny TV, and then
Mhm.
okay, let me get to my study station and start. So I would start because the exam would starts at exactly 9 o'clock. It was
Mhm.
9 to 12, and then you get your little break, and then 1 to 4. So I would structure my day around that, so that you are the most alert
Mhm.
during the actual bar exam times itself,
Yeah.
and switch it up.
Yeah, I was
Do
gonna say a point you're pointing out kind of like that structure. I think that's something looking back that I didn't do, and I think I didn't realize how much stamina I needed to have built
for sure.
for because we know law school for me at least I took between 3 hours to 6 hour exams, but
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
it was never 2 days of 6 hours or even though
Mhm.
according as 3 days. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just want
No, no, no.
stamina.
Absolutely no. Yeah, yeah, no. It really is. It really is. You don't know how important it is,
Yeah.
to have that stamina. And if you're able to, get a prep course, or even the NCB website does have some free resources themselves. They have, practice exams. You need to stay there for 3 hours answering your questions, multiple choice in your essays, and switch it up. Maybe one day you want to, once you get to that point where you're taking your practice questions, one day do your multiple choice in the morning, uh, essays in the afternoon, and then flip it the next day, and then flip it
Mhm.
back. So that way, you don't have that, because I had this on the first time around where it's a grueling exam, like you said. The stamina, it really wears you down. And so for the multiple choice in the first time around, I um, I ran out of time, and I blind guessed on like 10 of them in the first section, and then 7 in the second section.
Mhm.
And then because I was exhausted by when it got to that point. And but then the second time I blind guessed on 1 in the first half, and then finished completely the second half. So
Mhm.
I saw that there was definitely something that worked, and that's just what it is: staying active and alert during those times where the bar exam is administered is
Yeah.
very key. And I studied on the weekends. Again, I didn't do it like, again, it's 8 to 10 hour shift, but definitely put in your hours on the weekends. And if you're
Yeah.
feeling fatigued, because again, we're going to have those times where you feel fatigued, maybe that's when you listen to your lectures. Do something
Mhm.
that's a little bit more, that doesn't require too much attention,
Mhm.
and you can still listen to it while you're studying. Or if you do flashcards, again, this is one thing that, don't reinvent the wheel. What didn't work first time around. So I never did flashcards in law school. I wasn't a flashcards person.
Yeah. Yeah, me
And
either.
I, and right. And then I was
Yeah.
told, do flashcards. And so I wrote out like 400, 500 flashcards the first time. I wasted my time because I didn't go through any of them.
Yeah.
And so, but if flashcards work for you when you're doing that downtime and you don't you're a little bit fatigued, go through your flashcards.
Yeah, we have a comment here. Programs like Barbary have a built-in schedule of things to study that helps a lot. It's super important to have built-in happiness activity. Yeah, I look
Absolutely.
back. I got a scholarship from the Indianapolis Bar Association.
Hmm.
I think I had been studying with a lot of Barbary material in law school. Like looking back, I wish I would have gone with Barbary, not because
Hmm.
indie bar would have worked for anybody else, but for
Hmm.
me personally, just the way that was built, I was used to that. So like now looking back, I think I went
Hmm.
to either Washington or Oregon's bar. Like that's
Right.
probably what we'll probably go with. Like what did work, like you said, what worked for me in law school. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. But I'm sure I don't know how your law school did it, but the Barbary price point is the highest one.
yeah, it is.
So, I took Themis
Mhm.
because it was entirely online, and I figured, it would give me the kind of the ability to just hop on when I wanted to study at my own pace. Didn't have to worry about, because the other thing, at least with me, I mean, I didn't have any anxiety before law school. So then I didn't start to get, but my rationale was I cannot be surrounding myself with other people who are under the same amount of stress that
Yeah,
I'm under, because that's just going to mess
with
with your
mhm.
concentration as well.
Yeah, I had a big problem with hearing people just talking about how nervous and stressed they were because I'm an empath, so I would
Hmm.
feel that stress. Like anyone that's stressed out, it really I can feel that energy. And I although now as an adult I have learned to, kind of deflect, just kind of stay on my own
Hmm.
energy. It when you're in a stress level too, especially the vulnerable, I will come home and like, should I be that stressed?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that. I heard that, and from other classmates, and it is. It's again something. If it's your first time or your second time, regardless, it's not a very conducive environment to your health and your well being.
Yeah.
And then if couple that with the stressors that you're feeling from other people, um, just going off of one of the questions that we had prepared, like the study environment. Like the first time around, I only studied. We have a two-bedroom apartment. I studied in that second bedroom the entire time. Did not leave. That was that was my space for 2 months. The
Wow.
second time, I ended up going at least once a week to the library at school.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to go to the library at school the first time around because for that same reason I did not want to surround myself with other people and their stressors. And then I I just I knew a lot of people at school too, so I couldn't go anywhere with like, hey, how are you doing, and how's everything going. And
Yeah.
sure, while I in another circumstance or under other circumstances I would have appreciated that banter back and forth, while I'm studying for the bar I don't want any of that. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I'm not a rude person. I'm not going to be like, leave me alone. But some people have.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get away from that. I wanted to get away from that. But
Yeah.
then the second time around, I did say that, like, hey, I need to go study.
Yeah.
Nice seeing you, but I need to go study.
Oh my gosh. Which kind of brings we have a question here, which is gonna be talking about kind of probably about boundaries. So
Mm-hmm.
let me read it for you, and then we can go back between the law school and the bar exam about boundaries. But I
Mm-hmm.
got accepted to a law school that will require me to leave home, and I'm nervous about moving and starting my life in a whole new city environment. I know
Mm-hmm.
that moving could be a good opportunity to get out of my comfort zone and grow, but I'm scared. What's your advice in moving for law school?
Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. It's one thing that, and it's funny because yeah, you talked about my bio earlier. My mom is like super proud of everything. Like my mom is even watching this right now, and so it's yeah, yeah. My mom's like, "Mi hija va a hacer un discurso." I'm like, "Mom, please, like, no, no tanto así."
No, yeah, my
But
mom doing this cafecito. She's like, "How was your cafecito, Mia?" And like, so she wants to be. One time she called twice. She called in three times by accident because she was trying to join. She didn't understand how it worked. So I was
yeah.
talking to somebody, and I hear the video on my iPad, and I'm like,
I know. I know.
because she just didn't
They're just
understand
so
she
proud of
couldn't
us, you
call
know. They're
in
so
while I was
proud of
talking
us.
to
But, you know,
somebody.
and that's why I want to like tie in with what she's saying. Like, you know, I like I said, I'm from California. First time I moved out of the state was to go to Arizona and then, you know, come to Chicago for law school. I absolutely recommend to every person. I think it's a lot easier, you know, before you're married, before you have kids, to leave that comfort zone because that's you grow. You don't know how much you can grow or how much you're able to grow until you leave your comfort zone because you're placed with circumstances that you have no choice but to handle on your own,
Hmm.
and you find out what you're made of and what you can handle. And so I say absolutely do it.
Yeah.
Take that move because you're going to also expose yourself to connections that you're not going to make if you're staying at home. Because that's one thing that I did. Again, I moved across country to come to Chicago, and I said, if I'm going to move across the country, I'm not just going to sit idly by and just, you know, go to school or, you know, just not make the connections, which obviously school is important, but it's just as important to make those connections, to build relationships, to find yourself a job, and to just, you know, just build a community in
Hmm.
your new community that you've moved to. So yeah, take that risk. And if one of the comforts that you're scared of leaving is your home, you know, your parents or something like that, I know that I personally had to deal with a lot of just the guilt of our that Latinos face, that you're not going to go to, you know, el bautismo de Susanita, or no vas a venir al cumpleaños de la abuela, you know, no nos vas a llamar, like, for those who don't speak Spanish, you know, you're not going to come to grandma's house, you're not going to call her, you're not going to go to the baptism, you know, it's I don't know if it's not done on purpose, but it's, you know, our families want us to be with them in every single moment and every single event. And when it comes to something like this, like I've had to tell my mom, you know, she knows this. Like I've had to say, like, Mom, I love you very much, but I can't call you. Like
Yeah.
I need you. I will call you every, like, especially during the bar. I said, Mom, I will call you once a week. Like I can't, because if it were for us, like we'd be talking on the phone every day, which is great, you know, especially living across the country. But the this is the time where you hear it time and time again, but this is the time where you have to be selfish, and you have to, you know, just don't pay attention to anything else and take control of the time that you have, because it is by itself so limited.
Yeah. It's
So
just kind of what we just said, what you just said. It's so true that you need to take time for yourself and be selfish because you can be better equipped after law school, after you take the bar exam and you pass the bar exam to
mhm,
take care of your family and be present for them. It's just
absolutely.
setting that aside is so important. I know that I was terrified to, leave my home, like my comfort zone,
Mhm.
and especially because my mom and I are just so close. We're
Mhm.
look alike. She's just my role model and everything. We all have our heroes, and
Right.
that she's my hero to me. And just being far away from her was hard. In my first semester, I did try to go back as much as I could, like every other weekend, to go
Mhm.
visit. And I wasn't putting in the time I needed to study. And it wasn't until I was in academic formation my first semester, and
Mhm.
also, losing a family member just really impacted me at that time.
Mhm.
But when it came to my second semester, it had to be a whole different story. I was like, no, I can't go and and visit family as well. I in third semester, fourth semester, and it just went on that they understood and they had to that if I was willing to succeed in all their sacrifices, it was important that we honor those boundaries, that
It
we
is.
give ourselves that time.
It is, and it's one thing. Like obviously, if and I don't know, like we've said before, that there are so many. There's uh, Latinos and members of this official Latina community are either pre-law, in law school. We're at all different levels, but
Yeah.
if you need somebody to talk to your mom, I am more than welcome to talk to your mom for you. I mean, because the I one thing that was very helpful was, I mean, again, my mom was not in the state, but when I got involved in the Latinx Law Student Association at John Marshall, uh, every fall the professors that the advising professors would host a just like an intimate dinner at one of their houses in like an event space, and we'd have food and say, all the new members of the lawsuit association, and then with the board, and bring your parents, or bring your
Trying people,
guardian.
I'm sorry.
It's a beautiful closet.
I'm trying to wait
um,
for people to stick around. Go
Stay tuned
ahead.
for a do-it-yourself closet makeover. Um, it says, so it said, bring your spouse, bring your kids, bring anybody who you live with or you communicate with, bring them. And it was an environment that was just it was eye-opening for our loved ones, so that and we talked about, like, hey, this is what life is going to be like for the next 3 years, and then for the bar. It doesn't mean that your kid doesn't love you. It doesn't mean that your kid is straying away from the family. It just means that law school is very demanding, and unless you've
Yeah.
gone through it, you really don't understand. You really
Mm-hmm.
don't. So this is just as, you know, if so you want your child to succeed, we want your child to succeed. This is the only way that they're going to do it. So just
Yeah.
let them.
Yeah.
So I would say that, for the students in those kinds of situations as well, you know, I'm more than happy to talk to mom, but reach out to your schools and see if there's some kind of event like that, because it's the only way that they'll really understand as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think especially as and for me and my culture as a family, and I think a lot of Latinas might agree that we are expected to be caretakers of others, to be
Hmm.
emotionally available, especially with our moms. Like for me, my
Oh,
mom,
yes.
she wanted me to like for her, to be heard about what's going on in her community, what's going on with fulanita this and all that, and catching up with you, and like that's very important to us. I mean,
Yes.
I joke that usually like I'm late, or our family will be late stuff because we were caught up talking to somebody that we cared about,
Hmm.
events
Hmm.
or something like that. But it's actually true, just being close to your community is important. But I definitely, like you said, having to tell your loved one I love you, and it's there, but I am thinking of us in the long run, in the long term.
Hmm. Hmm.
That
Hmm.
was
And yeah, for sure, for
yeah,
sure. And you just have to say, like, again, I love you, but I cannot deal with that right now. I
yeah.
have to deal with this, but I'll be there for you once this is all over, I promise.
Mhm. Yeah, and then
Or,
for the person who asked, I know they might be scared being in a new environment, but going to law school, I didn't often make the closest friends, unless people are very close friends with a lot of people, and they might be in their weddings in the future,
it
and
from law school,
they-
right?
from law school, yeah.
Oh, yeah, for
But
sure.
and I
Yeah.
wasn't like that, but I still make good connections, and my the people that did end up being my closest to me, that ended up being in my wedding. I had like one person that was able to make it because it was across the US, but
Hmm.
I have
Hmm.
other friends like Joanna. She's gonna be on our show later next week. She's in Washington DC, one of my closest friends too, and it's those people that you'll meet in law school, they're going to become almost like your family. So give yourself the opportunity to grow and meet those individuals, because the people that you surround yourself with, those are people that are gonna uplift you too during that difficult time. So you will build
Absolutely.
connections in law school. Even your professors, like I have
Oh
professors,
yeah.
oh my gosh, like they stood up for me. They were there for me. I had one that she made me cry because I was so scared.
Oh.
Because well, no, she didn't make me cry. I cried because I was so scared of talking to her because she was intimidating. She was so sweet. She hugged me, and then we
Mm.
became like great friends, you know.
Mhm. Mhm. It's
And
true. It's
I
true.
one of the classes that I was so scared of in criminal law. I was like, oh my gosh, that's not my thing. How am I
Mhm.
gonna do in that class? One of the classes I did, I loved, absolutely loved in the end, and I did well in. But you'll grow and build those connections too. So don't be afraid of that. And we're
Absolutely
here
not.
too. You know, you need to talk to one of us. Just email us or send us a message, and we'll be happy to do that. Or pair you up
Absolutely.
with anyone else that you want to meet too. You know, Latinas supporting Latinas. You know.
Absolutely. Because if not us, then who? So,
Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And we have another question that just came in. If we're switching gears a little bit, how did your employers or employer generally react to having to retake the bar exam?
Yeah, I briefly touched on this. So again, I was very, very fortunate to be in this kind of position. So I found this job through a minority job fair, and it was just exclusively towards minorities. And I got the job because this job is actually like you need 2 to 3 years of litigation and attorney experience before they hire you on. So I was part of this particular program. I was actually the first law student that they had hired. So they had never even dealt with the dealing with somebody that like, what if they don't pass the bar?
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm like I mentioned earlier, I'm very fortunate to have a great support system even at work. My chief is amazing, my deputy chief is amazing, everybody at work is amazing. So they fought for me to stay.
Yeah.
Um, and the also like the bar passing rates this last for the July bar were pretty bad, at least for my school. I actually found out that the number was like below 70% of students that passed.
Yeah.
Um,
The year that I took it was the lowest in the history, and that's just very embarrassing, but also
mhm.
like, okay, I'm not alone in this because I didn't
Right.
like I thought it would be really bad, and then this past year it went down again, even lower. It's
Mhm.
scary. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, 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 yeah. So that's one thing. I mean, you realize that hey, I'm not alone. And actually, there was another student or another clerk that got in through the same program in a different bureau, also didn't pass. So they talked to the deputy attorney general. Went all the way up there to say like, hey, we have these two law clerks. We really want them to stay. They didn't pass the first time. What can we do? So then they gave us both the second try.
Yeah.
And then I passed and I was able to come on. And, even while I was waiting for my bar results, though, I was still working as a law clerk. So yeah, no, I mean, I was very thankful to have a good support system at work. And it depends on where your job placement is, because I know that, for example, at the state's attorney's office, while let's say you didn't pass the first time, you may not be able to litigate and go to court, but you can go to appeals and you can at least be writing motions and researching and stuff.
Yeah, I think
Or,
it depends, right? Like if you're going to be needing the majority of your cases are going to be in court based and like they're needing you in that space, or are you going is it okay that you're still working and doing something that's not representing a client but that you're able to do while you're studying for it again? I
right.
I got hired right after I took the bar to work for a nonprofit,
Mm-hmm.
and it was for immigration work, and I was really excited. I was hoping I passed. I was trying to be motivated that I would, and I didn't pass it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to take it again. And I
Mm-hmm.
needed to talk. I was so scared, and I
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I found out, I was like so scared, but I had thankfully built a good relationship. It's really important to build a good relationship with your employer. Remember, first of all, they wouldn't have hired you if they didn't think that they wanted to keep you or that you fit that culture. Second of
Yep.
all, is an investment for them, and as not it's a lot of other places. It's not the first time that someone has not passed the bar. So they
Mm-hmm.
know that if you don't pass it, they need to have a plan for you. And that's
Right.
something that you probably want to discuss. Like, I know that you don't want to scare your employer, that you want to be positive, but maybe it was something to you needed to discuss upon hiring. Like,
Exactly.
what's going to happen so that you know what's going to happen if you don't pass the first. And obviously, the way I would word it is like, I know I'm working my butt off to pass it, but what will happen if I didn't? Would you give
Yes.
me a second opportunity?
Yes. And I
And,
actually did that. I actually
mhm,
did ask that because I was scared. Like, what if?
yeah. And I know
So,
that some at first they were like, "Well, get to the bridge when we need to cross it." And I'm like,
yes.
"Well, no,
Yes.
actually, because I
I
can't
need
really
to know.
rely on not working. I need money,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
to work. I
Mm-hmm.
need to work."
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, they did give me an opportunity, and I was supposed to take the bar exam in the February of 2019, and I didn't take it because my family ended up having to move, and they were to a different state, and I was just I withdrew from the bar. I had gone through all of it again, filling out
Mm-hmm.
everything and paying all the
Mm-hmm.
fees. And I was moving because we had a family loss and my circumstance changed. And unfortunately, they couldn't keep me on for that longer term, and I wasn't going to be an attorney for them. So I had to leave, and I ended up started working for a private firm of someone
Mm-hmm.
that another mentor that I knew, but
Mm-hmm.
my circumstance was different. But know that your skills are still valuable. That even if you do need to work and you have to take the bar exam, you will find another place where you can work and you can study, and it's not going to be the end of the world. That's really important to say to a lot of people because it wasn't the end of the world for me. I'm still here. It
It
wasn't the end
won't.
of the world for you. You passed it. You took it. You succeeded. So know that it's okay if you didn't pass it the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be fine, and you're gonna go where you're needed and where you need to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not that you didn't put in the work the first time and you didn't appreciate, the work and the end result, but there's just something about, passing it after, I
Yeah,
also know I also know people that have had to take it even more than two times.
yeah,
But there's just something about finally getting that I've and achieving it, that I've said that at least for me it will allow me to better empathize with I mean, I work for the state. I see, especially now that I've actually been assigned to a COVID response task
yeah.
force.
Wow.
We've received more than 1,500 complaints in the last 2 weeks. And these are people that are really.
Because we went over an hour, so I'm hoping that I can add Jessica on here again. So if you're watching this is what's what's going on, that we were caught off, and thank you so much for those joining in again. We have a lot of, to say, and a lot that we've been discussing with Jessica. So she'll be joining again. There we go.
That
Hi.
is so great. Look at that. Look how much we've talked that Instagram wanted to kick us off.
And I still like didn't even get through all of our questions, but
No, no, and
this
there's like
again.
one that I definitely want to share as far as resources that I
Yeah.
absolutely want to share like once
Yeah.
this is all over. So, yeah, finish that question for sure.
Oh, we were talking about networking,
Yes.
in what ways do you think that's really important? Why is this so important? If you can answer that for our previous person who asked that question.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, I can only speak from my experience. I started networking like the first week of school when I moved over here because, like I said earlier, moved across the country, did not know anybody, and I was not going to, just not network because that was going to be my only opportunity to a job, my community, everything. So fine. I was a part of the local Hispanic Lawyers Association of Illinois. They had a mentorship program. You know, even do like what I did every week, which I probably should have, done more homework. Which I mean, I was fine, but like I would do Google searches, like you know, law student mentorship or law student networking things. Just and now with the availability of social networking, there is something, and you're going to find it.
Yeah.
HMBA, the Hispanic National Bar
Yeah.
Association, will have some sort of local chapter.
Mhm.
Your local minority bar associations. There's so many resources. So yes, it is absolutely, and it's so crucial. And I would make it a point to go to a networking event at least once a month.
Yes.
At least once a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, at least for me, I grew up, I did not have the confidence to talk and, to meet people. And that was totally not me. But I
Mm-hmm.
ended up getting to a point here in law school where I would even go to these events by myself. And so that is a big,
I
that's
had to work
big.
by that too.
That is big. And, not a lot of people can do that. And I was so nervous the first time that I did it. But you'll realize that attorneys, don't want to say this because I don't want to say that I like to talk about myself. But I mean, I'm doing this, so maybe I do. But attorneys are so willing to help.
Yeah.
Most of them are. They're so willing to help, especially if they're at a networking event. You can't be shy to, you know, ask further information or anything like that. Most events you'll see, like, if it's like a panel or something like that where a group of attorneys are going to be there, you could probably get a list, or even at your local like job fair, local school, law school job fair. They'll usually give you like a list of attorneys and the what their practice areas are. I would do a Google research and say, okay, is this somebody that I'm interested in meeting, and this and this and this? Go meet them. Let's
Yeah.
say, here's a tip too. Let's just say that you wanted to talk to them, and listen, maybe you got a little nervous or something like that. You have the ability to get their email address, shoot them an email and say, hey, Miss So and so, I didn't get a chance to talk to you, but I would love to meet with you, and let's set up a coffee or something like that. That way, it takes the anxiety and the pressure of trying to approach them in this crowded room, and then you can meet with them on your own terms.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually got a comment from Mujeres Llenas. She said Jessica is too modest by keying her networking skills. Well, that she took the time to send texts and emails to meet her for coffee and talk about her future endeavors as a young Latina professional. I think a lot of us tend to be too modest in what we've done.
Yeah, yeah, no. I did. I really did put in a lot of work. I really did. But at the same time, like, it didn't feel like it was a lot of work because I ended up really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I ended up, because I would have classmates that maybe would want to go and that did not want to go by themselves. They'd be like, hey, let's go. Let's go. I'm more than happy to, just be your wing woman, so to speak.
Yes.
And let's go. And I just think the more you do it, the more you practice, the more confident that you get.
Mm-hmm.
And because again, I did not have any friends in high school. I was that person. Like, high school was terrible. So I don't
Same.
even know who I am now. But, it just comes with time. And
Yeah.
if it's something that you love, I think it'll just come naturally. And then the people that you meet will see that in you, and just the conversations will just flow.
Yeah, we have a comment here. As a Latina, we have to put in more work. We have to work to be seen and recognized. Yes, for sure.
Absolutely.
A lot of
Absolutely.
work, it feels like, and also being very clear in what it is that we want to achieve and do, because we will. For me at least, I got a lot of stereotypes of what people wanted to put on me,
Hmm.
and that was kind of annoying, but also like very hard to at first speak up, and then suddenly I finally find no, but this is what I want to do and why.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's very
Hmm.
important. And then we have
Yeah.
hey ladies, any advice to law students in being motivated and focused during the pandemic? I'm most productive at the library, and it's been an adjustment to be in my room all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the questions that I had to prepare. And one, like, this is obviously just an idea because I have no idea what it's like to feel what you're feeling right now. I can only imagine because, even though you don't want to be in the library, that was at least your escape, and, that was your comfort. So the only thing I would say is you have no choice.
Yeah.
Like, I have to probably be as blunt as that. Like, it's hard. This is, it is, there's nothing that's positive that's coming out of this situation. We're
Yeah.
being forced to adapt to our new surroundings. And while that may be difficult, you don't have the ability to go to a library. Whatever space in your house that you find, you're just going to have to,
Yeah.
make it what you can, whether it's, by a window, maybe put like a little plant. I even this was the first time I made a vision board the second time
Yes.
around, and it was just something that at least I was looking at. I even had my screensaver on my phone, or my wallpaper on my phone, on the lock screen. It said, "Relax, you're going to be a lawyer." I
Yes.
was constantly surrounded, or made sure to be constantly surrounded by things that would motivate me to, of my end goal. So yeah,
Yeah.
I can only imagine, how tough it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the plus side is you don't have any other distractions. You're forced to study, which is probably not something that you want to hear, but it's just, thankfully there aren't any other distractions to take away your time from what you should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Yeah.
study, even if it's maybe not on your couch or something, but something that you can actually dedicate to, like, this is my study space. And make sure, like I had said earlier, or I don't know if you were on the call, but I truly recommend that each day you do something that makes you happy, especially now during this time. Get
Yeah.
outside and go for a walk. So don't lose sight of that. And it's that's what I would suggest. And my
Yeah.
my heart really goes out to you, because I mean, I only know what it's like to be working under these conditions, but
Mm-hmm.
studying for this exam is just,
Yeah.
it's unbearable. So don't lose sight of the little things that make you happy, and continue doing them during this pandemic. And just, you're able to focus all of your time on studying and
Yeah.
do it, because no hay de otra, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. I mean, just in general, studying for law school, the best thing that I literally would move everything around in my house, like my little apartment. I had a one bedroom apartment and during law school, and I would move everything around just so I could, because I think I'm a creature of habit, but also having that change gives me a new perspective. It just feels like a new fresh start. So even just moving around my furniture, it kind of helped me concentrate a little better. Something might flow better in the air. How
Mm-hmm.
so even just if you need to just take time for yourself, and doing a vision board is so important. I sometimes, like, I didn't have magazines because I just couldn't afford magazines,
Oh
subscription or
no, I didn't
something.
buy any magazines. I found them.
Sometimes I
Let me.
printed those things off. Yeah. But what I would do is that I like right now, what I have done is I have just written, and it's a lot, but you can just limit yourself. But I did 300 things I want to accomplish in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And those were the things I just been adding on to it so that
Mm-hmm.
I can feel motivated, just taking a few minutes to do it.
Yes.
Just,
Yes.
like
Yes.
I said, something that makes you happy. So
Mm-hmm.
I know you were trying, Jessica, to cover some things that you did prepare for. Is there some other things that you like to tell us in the next few minutes here?
Yeah, just, I mean, the something that I would probably want to, wrap up with, just because these are a couple of resources that I did not use until the second time around, and I know that they were extremely helpful for me. Now, this isn't like, I'm not trying to sell anybody anything by any means.
Mhm.
I'm not a sponsor or anything, or I'm not sponsored by anyone. But what really helped me, so I did get Adaptabar, to get those real life questions, and I did think that it was helpful. Absolutely, just making sure you do a mixture of questions. Do Adaptabar questions, do Themis or Barbary or whatever questions. Make sure you also do some questions in writing, because the multiple choice is Scantron. So there's something about also just being able to underline and mark. You're not able to do that on the computer.
I
So make
wrote
sure
down
you're able.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, wrote down the name so that people would know what Adaptive Bar is or TMS and they can look it up. And
Yes,
we're also
yes.
sponsors, so if anyone's just
For sure, for sure. No, no, Adaptive Bar was amazing. Um, One book that changed my life, and unfortunately, I did not read it until the Friday before the exam, the second time around. But even still, by me going over it the last couple of days, it changed my life. It was the Emmanuel MBE Strategies and Tactics for the MBE exam.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely game changer, because what it is, like, and I read it from the beginning, and then I would go into the different sub subjects. um, I did not know. So it basically teaches you that, like, the components of the question and what it is that the question is actually asking you. So, like, so it's basically, it's called a qualifier. It
Mm-hmm.
teaches you about qualifiers, and I was like, what is that, what does that even mean? And so it teaches you how to look at the responses, because generally you're probably looking at the, you come up with the answer in your head, and then you're like, okay, or that's what you should do, right? You come up with the answer in your head, and then you go to the responses, see what best matches. You're probably going to go look to, like, the whatever, like, the first, like, so for example, if you say yes because, or whatever, you're going to look at the yes responses first, and then look at the reasoning. But so what this book actually teaches you is, what you need to look at first is the qualifier word, which is the first word right after the comma. So whether it's like because, or, I honestly, I can't remember them right now, but I only remember because. And so it basically means that, um, uh, and so you look at the qualifier first, and then you look at the reasoning. So again, I'm a little fuzzy right now because I didn't read it recently. I read it back then, but it's a very useful book that teaches you how to read the questions.
Mm-hmm.
And after reading that, it completely changed my life, because I was analyzing the questions by first doing, okay, yes or no, and
Mm-hmm.
then looking at the reasoning. But that
Mm-hmm.
qualifier word makes all the difference, because it each one can mean something different solely because of that qualifier that you did not know.
Yeah. Well, that's
So
really great. That's,
that book, and then JD Advising One Sheets. I don't know if you guys have heard of those.
can you
Um,
repeat that one again? JD.
yes, JD Advising.
Uh-huh.
Now, these are pricey. Thankfully, I had a friend who used them the first time around, and she let me borrow them. But basically, what those do is that it synthesizes everything into one sheet, front and back. All of the main topics in, let's say property, for example. And so, granted, you should not just study for the bar using that one sheet, but this is like, once you get towards maybe the last month of prep, when you should have a good, not I want to say good, but you should have some sort of idea of what's going on. And then this just has everything on one sheet. It's easier to memorize what's on that one sheet. And what I would do is, I would try to memorize it, and then I'd write it all out. This is something I did not do at all the first time around. So I would
Mm-hmm.
really, the memorization, was the key factor. First time around, I felt like there was no time to memorize anything. Second time, really focused on the memorization and just doing those things of, like, trying to write out your outline, write out the definitions. Mnemonic devices really helped.
Good.
So yeah,
Oh.
those are things coworkers say. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Uh,
Thank you so much for staying with us. We're like, I think
yeah,
we're over a little bit.
yeah,
Jessica,
no worries.
I want to invite you to come back. I know that we're working on creating a podcast from our side, if whether that's gonna be Latina, where I'm not sure. I think we're hoping to name it something else to be more inclusive to a lot of other topics.
Sure.
But I'm really excited to have you on again and invite you to come back because
Thank
it's
you.
helpful. And it's so
Thank
easy
you.
to you too. So it's been really great.
Thank you, thank you. And I truly invite anybody who has any questions, feel free to email me. I have my Instagram private, but I purposely did put it on public in the event that anybody did want to like follow or like get in touch with me.
Mhm.
But yes, I am so open to answering anybody's questions.
Yes.
Um, so if you can put my email address and
Yeah, I did put it on there, and I'll put it on our website. So
perfect.
I'm hoping it saved everything in the live.
Probably have to
Hopefully,
cut and
this is
paste
really
all
good.
these.
Putting on our website too for the video, and people can search for the video recording there. So hopefully
Absolutely.
we'll capture anyone that can get in touch with you or have any questions for you. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much for being a resource for our community, Jessica. It was
Absolutely.
lovely speaking to you. And for
Thank
those
you.
who already passed bar, if you know someone who did, we'll invite you guys to our Esquire celebration online and our graduation celebration online too, if you graduated this past year. So please join us and email me at latinastories@gmail.com. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank
And
you. Thank you for having me.
great day at work and stay
Thank you.
safe.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Everybody have a good one.
So nice seeing you, Jessica.
Likewise, likewise. Bye.
Bye.